when I met my husband, I was a sports reporter and he was playing. And I thought, I'm just marrying a man. But I was marrying a whole lifestyle. And little did I know that it wasn't just my best friend that I was marrying. I was signing up for a lifetime of road games. And we've had a lot. We've moved 15 times in 30 years, and like you said, 16 as of last week, but it's the same city. And actually, some of these are multiple cities, because in football, what you realize is, if you did a good job somewhere, even if you get fired, there's a chance you might go back, or there's somebody that you know along the way. It's such a small knit circle. And we made a lot of mistakes. The first year my husband got a job in the NFL, we were excited. We wanted all of our friends to come, and I think my husband was making $20,000 a year, and I was making more for a nonprofit. But we managed to get into $10,000 of debt just buying tickets for our friends, because most people think we get them free, but we didn't want to tell them. We didn't have the heart to tell them. But we learned that fast. And what I want today is to really just share a couple stories. I can't share them all, but I can share a few. And from that, I've developed something called my W.I.N formula, how you can win in life. And I think anybody can take this. So how you might not resonate with every story that I tell, the lessons that we learned, I really think that you'll be able to identify with. So my W.I.N formula, I will tell you this, I am just a huge fan of an acronym. So my W.I.N formula, W.I.N stands for work on your mindset. Because everything you do in life, your success, is between your two ears. Because what you believe and what you think is going to make the decision about what you do and the actions you take and the things that you're going to do to change your life. And then the I stands for invite new opportunities, new experiences with intention. It will change your life. And N stands for nurture relationships. If you can manage those things, those are the most important. And as you all know, because you know the importance of sports, the life lessons that you can learn in sports is phenomenal. You can basically learn everything through team sports. And I'm sure a lot of you here are athletes, and you know that. And we just feel so grateful that my husband was able to have a career doing something he loves while learning the sweet and the harsh life lessons along the way. Because this was not just a game for us. You hear that all the time. Oh, it's just a game. It's just a game. But it's our livelihood. It was our paycheck. It was the source of, next to, of course, our faith is our most important, but next to that, it was the source of a lot of struggle, a lot of joy, everything in our lives, everything, where we ended up, and all the moves that we had. So I want to start with a couple stories, and one of them, basically, as I mentioned, we've moved so many times. And if you've never uprooted your family, it's an experience. So before I even tell you this story, I want to ask, survey of hands, who out here has moved 5 times in their life? Raise your hand. Okay, great. There's quite a bit of you. Okay, keep your hands up if you've moved more than 10 times. Okay. I might say that might be military. If it is, if you're military, thank you for serving our country. 15 times. Does anybody here move 15 times? Okay, well, yeah, I got you beat, I guess. So moving 15 times in 30 years, it's not just moving to a house. You are uprooting your family, you're finding a new home, you're finding a new school, new doctors, new dentists, new friends, new sports teams, everything is new. And that might deter some people. It didn't deter me. But one thing that had I known before, it might have deterred me. But can you imagine visiting 15 different DMVs? That might be the least thing on my list that I like to do. is getting a new license in a new state. But what John and I chose to do is we focused on what we gained. A lot of people think it's lack, I'm losing my friends, but we didn't lose friends, we gained them. We know people all over the country. And where I do have some NFL wives that I know that are divorced and bitter because they felt like their husband was never home, they never had time for them, they were doing it all on their own. We just chose to look at it differently. We were a team. John and I were a team. I knew he was doing everything he could to support our family, and at the same time, I was doing my part at home. And yes, you can lose yourself, and that's actually why I work with people to realize, to help women realize that even if you do stay at home, or even if you do have a job outside of the home, there are things that you can do to change your life. You have your own identity, and it complements with the person that you're with. So, as adults moving, it was, what do I say? It was really an interesting thing to get used to, because you had to decide, how am I going to react? And to be honest, I really didn't care about myself as much as I did about my kids. Because I don't know about you, but if you all have kids, that's what you worry about all the time. How are they going to fit in? Are they going to like where we go? So what we would do with our kids is we had what we called a family huddle. Every time my husband got a new job, it was all exciting. We would get the family together and we had what we called a family huddle. Now, you have to ask my kids individually if they have a little trigger of PSD around that theme. But for the most part, we would do our research. We would find out how great this new place was going to be, all the fun attractions, the new school. And my husband would sell it like he was recruiting the best person ever to come to the school that he was recruiting to. He would make it sound like the kids were going to Disney World. And did it work? Well, there were still tears. There were still kids that were sad. But our energy of excitement, they mirrored. It took them a lot less time to really embrace where we were going and embrace the change. And they had a choice. We can't always choose the things that happen to us, but we can choose the way we respond. And I will tell you one perk that all of my kids had, and I bet no other kid in this country had. They had more farewell parties than any kid on earth. They were celebrated everywhere they were and everywhere they left. And that was a blessing in and of itself. Now, everything's great when you're hired somewhere else. But what about when you're fired? And we've been through a lot of firings, or just letting go, or whatever you want to call it. You can make it as nice as you want. But we were at the Arizona Cardinals. John was the quarterback coach. Sorry, something's coming out of there. He was with the Arizona Cardinals. He was the quarterback coach, and it was a terrible season. And everyone was let go, from the head coach all the way down to, I don't know, the video staff. We were wiped clean. And we could have freaked out, right? John had 2 weeks left on his contract, 2 more paychecks, no insurance. And I remember that day distinctly, but it wasn't because he lost his job. It was because that was the day I found out I was pregnant with our 4th child. And when I told my husband, right after he was called into the office and fired, that we were having another child, he looked at me and he said, "That is the best news I could have ever heard." And what I realized right then was that My husband's not only a great coach, he's a great leader. He chose the relationship of our marriage and how it would feel over freaking out that we had no idea how we were going to pay the bills. Because leaders don't panic, they pivot, they figure it out, they're resourceful. So, and FYI, we got a job in 24 hours and we were at the Cincinnati Bengals, and within less than a week. So, God has been good. Now, another situation I think about is when we were with the Dallas Cowboys. My husband was the tight ends coach, and my brother-in-law Jason was the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. And it's interesting because it's such a it's just a public career. Everybody knows what you're doing. Everybody knows if you're doing well or if you're not doing well. So our son comes home from school one day, and he's in middle school, John Morgan. We have 4. John's the oldest, and then we have 3 girls. And he was really sad. And we're like, John, what's going on? And he's like, they were saying mean things at school about Dad and about Uncle Jason, and that they should be fired, and they're terrible coaches, and they were awful. And it made me think, besides the fact that Mama Bear was really pissed off, is that no other kid is going to school if their parent is an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor or a plumber, and their peers going, your parents are awful. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing. They shouldn't have that job. They should be fired. And it made me realize that our kids had to be taught at a very young age that your self-worth does not come from what other people say. It doesn't even come from what you do. It doesn't matter if you're a coach, if you're a surgeon, whatever. It's about who you are as a person. And we taught our kids that very young, to get out of the goop. And yes, that's another acronym. GOOP stands for the good opinion of other people. The fastest way you can get out of the goop and stand for what you believe, because if you get caught in the good opinion of other people, you will never reach your potential that God has for you, what you could be doing in life. So that was a really memorable thing in my mind. And one of the most asked questions that I get is, what's the best place that you've ever lived? What did you like the best? What's the best city? What's the best place? And I can honestly say that we've left every place that we've ever lived because of the people. It's really not about the game. It's not even about the gear. But I will say I have a lot of sweatshirts and baseball caps. A whole closet full. It's pretty nice, but it's never about that. It's about the people we met. And we met amazing people along the way. We have lifelong friends in every city, and we have a free place to stay in a lot of cities. So I would say that that is really something that I really want people to know, because every place we lived, our kids were at a different stage of life, so it was very different. And then one last story I want to tell you is, in the NFL, there's a lot of times when your husband has to work, not just the weekend, obviously, but on Christmas. And there's a Christmas game, and it's an away game. And so Dad's not home for Christmas Eve, he's not home for Christmas Day, and the kids were young, and little Caroline looked at me and looked at Dad and said, Dad can't go play a game. He has to read with the night before Christmas. That was our tradition. Every Christmas, we go to church, We read the story from the Bible of Jesus' birth, and John, my husband, with all his vigor and all his energy and silliness, would read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." And we were trying to figure out, you really just have to get creative. Because how are we going to make this right for them? Because Dad wasn't going to be there. And mind you, this is before FaceTime, so we couldn't do FaceTime. But I found a recording book of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." We wrapped it up, and on Christmas Eve, Caroline opens this gift. She's very reluctant because she thinks it's just so wrong that she's opening a gift and Dad's not there. But after she opens the book and realizes it and presses the button, and it's John's voice, she looks at me and she says, "Dad is here." And that was such a highlight for me, and it actually made me realize my lesson was intentionality far trumped proximity at that point, because he made the effort, and that's a memory that we're going to hold more dear than the tradition itself. So a lot of times you think that things are not the way you want them to be, but in the end, in the hindsight, it's amazing. And whether you've moved 15 times or whether you've stayed in Greensboro your whole life, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you live. It matters how you live, and it matters the impact you make and who you are as a person. Because you're the quarterback, you're the captain, you're the CEO of your life, and you have a choice. And I could have had the choice to be bitter and complain, but I truly believe that if you frame things as an adventure, even if it's hard and even if it's a struggle, your life becomes an adventure. And so, was everything perfect? Never. Did we doubt every decision we made? Of course we did. That's just what you do as parents. But that is why it's so important that you have a cheerleader. We all need cheerleaders in our lives. I'm so thankful to have an army. I have my husband, I have my children, my mom, Honor Jones, my dad, Jim Jones, who, like I said, he's not only my cheerleader, but he's my unofficial agent. So if he reaches out to you, answer him. And as Mr. Berger said, I think he's one of the most solicited people on the earth. Is that right? But my dad's such a cheerleader for me, and I'm so thankful that I am fortunate enough. So my advice to you is find your cheerleaders. Find the people that are going to support you, and then go be one for someone who needs it. No matter where you are in life, if you're struggling with your job, if you're struggling with your health, if you're struggling with a relationship, just know that actually life is happening for you. There's wisdom to be found in whatever you're going through. And I just want to thank everybody here today for just the opportunity for me to speak. There's so many countless stories from raccoons in our chimney and flea infestations and just funny things that have happened in our lives. But I just want to thank you for letting me speak today. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love anything that you, I'll answer anything. I might not be able to answer all the things about NIL, but you'll have to have my husband back for that. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Our son John is 29 years old, and he's married to a beautiful lady named Aaliyah, and they live in Harlem, New York. He is a 6th grade English teacher, at Success Academy. Yes. And then my daughter, Honor, is in Nashville, works for a PR firm. She went to Georgia. A son went to Belmont University. Our daughter, Honor, went to Georgia. And then our other daughter, Olivia, is 26, and she went to South Carolina. And then our daughter, Caroline, is 23. She lives in Nashville, and she works for Moon Dance company, and she went to UNC. And then our South Carolina daughter is a teacher in Charleston. So, yeah. They're thriving, and that's the one thing about moving, is that our kids are resilient, they're resourceful, and they all went to colleges where they knew no one, because it didn't matter to them. They just knew how to do it. Does anyone have any other questions?
What was your longest stop? And what was your shortest stop?
Oh, that's a good question. Our longest stop was, we were in Dallas with the Dallas Cowboys for 6 years. And then the second one after that would be Lafayette College. He was the head coach of Lafayette College for 5 years. Dallas was special because his brother Jason was there, and then his other brother Judd was there. And under unfortunate circumstances, his brother Judd's wife passed away, and they had 4 children, and they lived 2 doors down from us. So I essentially took care of 8 children for a year. So 4 looked easy. But, and our shortest stint, I think my husband, his shortest stint was when he went to Oregon State as the offensive coordinator, and we did not go with him. We stayed in Tampa, Florida. It was our daughter's senior year of high school. So we told ourselves that no matter what we did in life, we were going to stay together and always move together. And then your kids are in high school. And we weren't going to make our daughter go to Corvallis High School, her senior year of high school. It affects not just their well-being, but it also affects what colleges they can get into, actually. So, any other questions? All right, well, thank you. Oh, yes.
What is your husband's role at Duke when he's general manager? What all does that entail?
So the general manager of football, it's a new position for all of these colleges, because as we know now, college football is becoming a business, just like the NFL. And so in the NFL, they have their own scouting department. So John would be like the head of the scouting and recruiting department as general manager. And so he helps with finding the talent that will come on the team, and he works. Duke actually has an NIL specific lawyer, and they work together. And so with the head coach, when it comes to actually negotiating those things. And but John probably is the one that is the guy who will tell you whether he thinks they're worth what they're willing to pay or not. Anything else? It's okay if it's about football. That's what it's about for us. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.